Good morning, everybody. My name is Antonio Gomez. I work for the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support. Thank you for being here for today's live walkthrough of document accessibility. I always have found that document accessibility makes no sense when you read about it. It is a lot easier to go through when you are in it and clicking around and asking questions. So that's really what I want to do today is I'm going to talk to you for a little bit, and then we're going to go through some worksheets that I'm going to drop in the chat. And I'd like for you to follow along with me. Or if you can't get access to the worksheets or whatever, we'll work around it. I want you to get in there and start clicking stuff because especially reading order is for me was it felt very unachievable until I had gotten in there and I tried around a bunch of stuff and then it started to make sense to me. So my name is Antonio Gomez. I'm a Workforce Innovation Coordinator with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support based out of ISU. I'm very happy to be here. I'm happy to be your presenter today. I'm also going to be your moderator and technical support. So if you have any questions, the chat is open. Go ahead and drop any questions in there. I will be looking at it. If you have any questions, you can also drop them in the Q&A. Whatever is most convenient for you, go ahead and do that. I usually have this as a please hold all questions into the Q&A portion. I will pause for questions for sure, but I really want this to be interactive and I want you to kind of run into problems and ask me for solutions while we're on here, because that's really going to be the benefit of this section. I hope that I'm able to be here to troubleshoot any issues that you might have had about document accessibility. So ignore that, ask questions whenever. Raise your hand, I can unmute you. This webinar will be offering closed captioning for accessibility, since it's just an accessibility webinar. So feel free to enable that whenever you'd like to. We will also be recording this webinar. The recording will be available on the Illinois Workforce Academy within 48 hours. And before we get started, we're going to get you some polls. So if you could take a minute and answer these polls, we would very much appreciate this. That helps us sorry, my polls got switched around. Helps us track data for who uses these webinars and all of that. So we've got two questions. Which partner do you best represents you? And then where's your local area? We'll give a couple of seconds and then we'll move on. So where's your local area? Which partner do you represent? All right. Looks as though we've got a lot of Title One. Thank you for being here. A decent amount of Title Two, a smattering of Title Four, and then mostly Northern Illinois, bit of Chicago, bit of Central, bit of Southern. So thank you very much. This helps us a lot with data tracking. So I will stop sharing and we will get started as soon as this poll page gets out of my way. That's so annoying. Whatever. It's not going to get out of my way. We'll keep going. The best advice I have for you is think ahead. It is really, really, really difficult to make a document that didn't start out accessible on the back end. It is nearly impossible to make a document that was inaccessible in Word be transferred over to a PDF and then all of a sudden magically become accessible. So the more that you think about this as you're beginning the draft, the less time it's going to take for you to have to correct things afterwards. And also the less time it's going to take for, like, for example, I'm assuming that there might be some Do It people here from the Department of Innovation and Technology based out of DRS, the Division of Rehabilitation Services, that they'll have to do a little less work if you can put this in on the front end. So I'm sure that they will really appreciate that. There we go. The polls finally went away. Jesus. Anyway, think ahead. The more that you do things on the front end, the easier it is on the back end. For this session, I've said this before, but I really want to emphasize this. Follow along on your device. Click around. That's what I really want you to do. I really want you to ask me questions, and I want to be able to help you with those. And if not, I can get back to you via email. Um, Drop questions in the chat or Q&A, raise your hand anytime so I can unmute you. What we're going to be looking at specifically today is Microsoft Office, so Word and PowerPoint, and then Adobe Acrobat Pro. In order to view the features that we have, we will be using Adobe Acrobat Pro, so it is the paid version. There are some accessibility features in the normal Acrobat, but it doesn't give you as many options as the Pro version. Many of us get that funded through our work, so I figured that most of us will have the Pro version. If not, then really my best advice for you with PDFs is to make the Word accessible so that then the PDF will be accessible as it goes through. And we will go through all of that. In general, try to save documents in the original format as much as possible because it preserves accessibility features. So if this was originally a Word doc, if you can share it out as a Word doc, great. If this was originally a PowerPoint, if you can share it out as a PowerPoint, great. There'll just be more accessibility features available if you can share it out in the original format. But we also all know that I can't just share a full slide deck. Like whenever you get this slide deck off of the Illinois Workforce Academy, it's going to be in a PDF format. And that's just how life is. So do your best. There's really only so much that you can do. The big thing to not do is to not send a scanned document. That makes it very, very, very difficult for screen readers to read what you're sending. And in general, it just like low visibility too. It just makes it a little bit difficult. So that is the big thing that, as I've talked to people, they emphasize to me is to not send scanned documents. Try to send a PDF if at all possible. Specify the document language. You'll find out if you've specified the document language if it keeps giving you errors about misspellings that you know are correct English. So that's something to look into there, but it's not usually a problem with people. And use a simple large font. For documents, we recommend around 12 points or 16 pixels because different fonts have different sizes. And for slides, we recommend about 24. Um, it really also depends on the size of projector that you're using. If we're doing this virtually, like on here, it's a little bit easier. But just think about the room. The big question, especially with slides, is think about how big your projector is and is it easily legible? So less is more, bigger is better, all that. And like I said before, if the Word document is inaccessible, then the PDF is also going to be inaccessible. And that will become apparent right away. Microsoft Office and Acrobat Pro both have accessibility checkers automatically incorporated. You'll see it usually in the bottom scroll of the page that you're looking at. It'll give you a warning about whether or not the document is accessible, and it will kind of walk you through things that you can do to make your document more accessible. And at the bare minimum, that is a really wonderful tool. It'll give you warnings and it'll give you more, they're usually like yellow or red. The rule is that if something is red, then you do have to resolve it. If it's a yellow, then use your discretion because sometimes it'll pick up on stuff that you really can't do anything about. Like for example, with this slide deck, there are some things in the template that I can't change because we have to use this template that are inaccessible, and you just kind of do the best that you can. So anything that's red, resolve. Anything that's in a yellow, like a maybe suggestion, you use your discretion. And you do have to use your discretion with a lot of these. You can just only do your best. What we're going to cover today. So I'm going to start out with a few resources of places that you can go to get a bit more information about accessibility in documents, because this is just going to be a 1 hour session. And when I went through training for this, it was an all-day event, and it was very, very, very helpful. It was put on by DO-IT, the Department of Innovation and Technology. And I highly recommend anybody who's able to join that to do it, but do it. But we're not going to be able to get through everything that there is to know about accessibility today. So I want to give you some resources. Then we're going to talk about accessible documents, and then I'm going to show you. And we're going to do it together, and you're going to ask me questions. So I've got a list of a couple of accessible fonts here. In general, you hear a lot that people don't, that you should use a sans serif font, which the serif is, if you look at the T in Times New Roman up there, it's got like a little decorative thing on the edges of each thing, like a little like that comes down. That's a serif. In general, we say to use a sans serif font. You can use a serif font. You can see here that Book Antique was a serif font, Georgia, Times New Roman, Garamond, um, and they're perfectly legible and always have been. So just use something that is simple, that is not too much. And there are more than just these, but these are a good smattering of them if you need a tool to look at. And these slides will be available to you on the Workforce Academy. The other thing that I really do want to show you, and we're going to actually take a tour of this, is the Department of Information and Technology's accessibility guides. So actually, for sake of easiness, I'm not going to show you exactly what they look like, but you do have the um, link here. If you click that link, then you're going to be able to see that they have a bunch of accessibility of more than just Word and PowerPoint. They have Access, they have Outlook, they have web accessibility. They also have a color contrast analyzer app that I use all the time and that I will actually show you. Yeah, go ahead. I see somebody has raised their hand. I'm going to unmute the hands down. So if you wanted to speak, you can raise your hand again and I'll get back to you. But please check them out. They have absolutely wonderful. Oh yeah, it's totally fine. All good. They have wonderful resources. They are the people who train me on how to do this, and they are truly subject matter experts. And I cannot recommend looking at their materials as a quick reference guide. They're very easy to read. They usually lead you to more in detail options through hyperlinks, kind of like a wiki. So I can't recommend them enough. For the sake of time, I'm not going to show you what that looks like, but you can click on these, and I highly do recommend that you do. The next one is the Job Accessibility Network. I always love to plug the Job Accessibility Network, JAN for short. myjan.com is a gold mine of, yeah, absolutely. I can put the links in the chat. Give me a second. Sorry, I got to rearrange my screen a little bit. So askjan.org, my bad, not .com, is for Jan. And then let's go back a slide. Sorry, this is the problem with me being the technical moderator and also presenting at the same time, is that I've got to rearrange my screen every single time. This is the Do It accessibility guides. So please go ahead and click on them, look at them. Give me, if you have any questions about them, let me know while we're on here. But I cannot recommend their resources enough. Jan, going back to that, is meant for employers to get a sense of what kind of accessibility devices or um, uh, um, accommodations they can provide for a low cost for their employers. It has articles, it has an A through Z glossary of different types of disabilities, what types of accommodations they might need, basic definitions. Uh, it's also, you can create your own account and save your resources that way. You can communicate with experts if, especially you're a business looking to hire people with disabilities and want to know how you can make your workplace more accessible to them, or if you're having any sort of issues. They're very, very, very willing to help and very helpful and give one-on-one advice. Unable to click from the PowerPoint, not seeing the links in the chat. Let me make sure that it is right. My bad. Yeah, the links on the PowerPoint you won't be able to click on until they're in PDF format, but these are the other links. Sorry, I had enabled the chat for everybody else, but I hadn't enabled it for myself. Um, can't recommend Jan enough. And it also gives approximate costs of what they would cost. And it also gives you forms. So if HR is having a conversation about uh, disability, accessibility, and accommodations, they can use these forms to have these conversations. They can use these forms to see what they're allowed and what they're not allowed to ask. They can also, they have medical forms that you can take to your doctor to get a assessment as to capacity at work. Just an absolute wealth of resources. I can't plug them enough. Please click on them, explore, especially the A through Z um, outline of different disabilities is just a wealth of knowledge and such a jewel and a gem. And I hope that I can get them more traffic. Moraine Valley Community College has also been doing some amazing stuff with accessibility within an education space. There are a couple of things that I want to highlight here. One is the seven pillars of accessibility, because I've stolen from it a lot. I've given this presentation before, and I readapted the organization of it because I love the way that the seven pillars were laid out. So you will notice the seven pillars later on. And they also have a lot of other accessibility materials that are very education focused that I wanted to highlight, and you can click on the second hyperlink there to do that. And I will drop those in the chat as well. So the first link is the seven pillars of accessibility, and the second link is their general accessibility resources. So some places that you can look at afterwards to dive into this a little bit deeper, and some references in general that you can use in your everyday life. So accessible documents. This is the part where I talk at you, and then we're going to do things together. The seven pillars of accessibility. I've adapted these a little bit from Moraine, but they are very, very similar, and I wanted to give them credit. So those are reading order, alt text, descriptive links, color and color contrast, lists, tables, and plain language. So what is reading order? This is really the one that trips everybody up because it's the most annoying one to use. But reading order is the built-in structure that especially Microsoft Office and PowerPoint, Word and PowerPoint and Adobe use to allow screen readers to follow the text and how it's being written. And that the built-in structure that Microsoft Office especially has is meant for screen readers to be able to jump to wherever the person wants to read. So in normal books, for people who don't have low vision, you open it up, you look at an index, you see what pages you kind of think that you need to go. You go there, you peruse, you scan, you skim, you get what you need, and you don't really read the whole thing cover to cover. That's what this is meant to do. So the idea is if you use the built-in structure, then people can skip to where they need to and navigate it more the way that people who don't have visual impairments would navigate a book. So that's why that's important. That's going to be the main thing that you're going to get pinged on whenever you send something to get made more accessible is reading order. And it also is a little bit annoying, especially in Word, to get it right. And that's why I really want to go through it with you, because it makes a little bit more sense if we're all in there together touching things and you can ask me questions. So um, it ensures that readers will also be able to read the PDFs once they're exported. This is really the big thing that makes reading order in PDF. Sometimes the reading order will get a little bit messed up even if you've done it correctly in Word in Adobe, and you have to go in and fix it a little bit, which I'll show you because the template that I'm using, the worksheet that I'll drop in the chat, is will most likely not show up exactly like I want it to in a PDF format. But the more that you do on Word, the better it's going to be in Adobe. But how do you do this? So the big thing with Word is the styles pane, and you'll usually see it up at top. You'll see like up there, as you can see, like the normal heading one, heading two, clear formatting situation. And if you've noticed that you maybe set your font to like Arial 12 and your normal is set to Times New Roman, if you click enter, it'll start clicking in a different font and you'll get all frustrated and be like, why is it doing this? Why would it not just keep the same font? The reason that it's doing that is because the normal setting of like what the normal text is supposed to look like is different from what you're actually using. So this will actually also help you when you're navigating Word to not get so frustrated because it keeps not remembering what formatting you were using before, and you have to go back manually and like make everything Arial 12 or whatever your preference is. So it is a little bit tedious. Basically, what you do is you right click the subcategory. So if you see in the screenshot, I've selected heading one. And then you hit modify style from the drop down. There's a little caret on the right hand side. And from there, you can adjust what it looks like. So if you're making a header, you can make it have a like default space before and after. You can change the font, change the color, change the italics, change whatever you want to. And then whenever you're ready to make another header, you can just click that and it'll automatically start typing in whatever font you had established as header one. So That helps it look a little bit more streamlined, but more importantly, it helps screen readers to understand that this is the title of the document. These are the subheadings. These are the subheadings. This is the table. This is the list, that kind of situation, and allow people to navigate that a little bit easier. Um, the other thing that you can do is you can make your adjustments in the Word document, like say that you want your normal text to be Arial 12, make it Arial 12 black, select that, and then hit the click the update to match selection. So if you look at the screenshot that I've got there, it has heading one, and then from the drop down, select all, which is grayed out, modify style, which is how you modify the style, delete, and then update to match selection. Update to match selection is going to make that heading one appear as whatever you have selected in the document. So that's frequently a little easier. It's a little bit glitchier going through that way, I'm going to be honest. I've had a little bit of trouble, so I've gotten used to just modifying the style from the modify style pane. Hopefully they fix that eventually, but it's really glitchy for me, I'll be completely honest. But we're going to go through this. This is really like this is the most complicated part. And this is the part that I really want to get your hands in. Um, in PowerPoint, this used to be really frustrating. It used to be in a really weird spot. Now it's just in Review tab, Check Accessibility, Reading Order pane, and it gives you a nice little, I've got a screenshot there of what that looks like. It gives you a nice 1, 2. This is what it's going to read first. This is what it's going to read next. And you can just unselect that little check mark for anything that you don't want it to read. And you can just drag and drop things to the order that you do want it to read. So if it's picking up maybe the title after the actual text, you can just scooch it back up and it'll fix the order. So actually, PowerPoint reading order is a lot easier than Microsoft Word. So, and it used to be horrible. The big thing to know about PowerPoint is that for accessibility, just so that people can navigate to different slides, it really does not want you to use the same header twice for two different slides. As a matter of fact, if you're using the accessibility checker at the bottom and looking at that pane, it's going to ping you anytime that you have a repeated header for a PowerPoint, which is why you see people doing like manipulating reading order, continued dot dot, continued dot dot dot, continued dot 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 dot. That is to break it up to make sure that a screen reader can jump to whatever slide the person is needing. So don't repeat headers if you can't. If you don't have to, try to think of ways to rename things. But it is a lot easier than it used to be. So thank goodness for that. Microsoft did us all a solid because it was really it was horrible. Some guides. This is something that people do wrong all the time, and I do it wrong all the time too. But header one is technically the document title. So whatever you want the title of the document to be should be header one. There should be nothing else that is header one. So for this one, it would be Workforce Wednesday webinar, whatever a live walkthrough of document accessibility, yada, yada, yada. That's header one. And then header two would be like my section headers of resources, accessible document parameters, and then live instruction, that kind of situation. And we recommend that you only have 3 subheaders. That's more for style than for accessibility. But if you get past header 4, you might want to rethink your structure. You might have a few too many subsections. But again, that really depends on the document, depends on what you're doing, and is up to that's more of a style preference than an accessibility thing. So feel free to ignore that one. Alt text. So what is alt text? Alt text is a written description of images so that screen readers can know the information that somebody who doesn't have a visual impairment would know from looking at the image. Because of that, only add alt text to images that are conveying some sort of information. So if I go back here, there's an image up on the screen of a little girl reading a book in black and white, and then there's the actual text. The little girl reading black and white, I could have not physically said that in a recording. You could have been listening to this by audio only, and you would not be missing any sort of information. So for anything like that, mark it as decorative. Don't add any more alt text than you need to. Only add alt text if it's conveying some sort of information. So for this one, on this slide, If you look at my slides, you'll be able to see that there's alt text describing that there is a correct way to do alt text and there's an incorrect way to do alt text. So um, this image is conveying that you don't just want to have yellow apple on this image because this image has a little bit more than a yellow apple on there. You want to have hand reaching for a yellow apple hanging from a tree, a little bit more descriptive of exactly what you're looking at. For me, as the person who drafted these slides, what I did for alt text for this is to say this is an example of what good alt text looks like. There is an example that just says yellow apple, which is not enough information, and then another one that is hand reaching for apple, yellow tree, which is good information, which is the information that I wanted you to glean here because it's not written anywhere else on the slides. That's when alt text is important. When somebody is going to lose information because they can't see, that's when you need to use alt text. And with that said, think about what you'd want to know about the image and think about the fact that a screen reader is going to have to read whatever you wrote. So make it real brief and make it just like the top couple of things that people need to know. It doesn't need to be long. As a matter of fact, as short as it can be is best. And mark anything that doesn't actually convey information and is just there for looks or whatever, anything that's part of the template as decorative so that it doesn't read things that it doesn't need to and it doesn't interrupt the flow. Also align the image with the text that it belongs to so that it doesn't, like you're not reading something over here. It's like this belongs to maybe up here's information, but it reads it down here. And so it feels like a weird skip um, of like skip back to whatever it was talking about before, skip forward to something that hasn't talked about. It's easier if things are just in alignment with each other. So just try to think about how the screen reader is going to read things. How to add alt text. In Microsoft Office, you right click on the image and there's an option that says view alt text, and that's going to open up an alt text pane. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. But you can also click the picture, open up the shape format, and there's an alt text option right there that you can use to open up the same pane. Two ways to get the same thing. In Adobe Acrobat Pro, you have to have Adobe Acrobat Pro. This is not available on the more inexpensive version, but you go to Tools, Prepare for Accessibility, and Set Alternative Text. That Prepare for Accessibility option is really how you get all of your accessibility features in Acrobat Pro. So once you've found that, you're golden. You're good to go. You'll see everything that you need to. And you can also mark anything as decorative from the Styles pane on Adobe or Office that you need to. And I'll show you that in a little bit. Descriptive links. So first of all, what is a descriptive link? A descriptive link is a renamed hyperlink. So it doesn't say the HTTPS forward slash whatever, www, whatever. It says text. So if you could look at my example here, it just says click here to visit Illinois WorkNet versus the full Illinois WorkNet URL. It makes text look a little bit cleaner. It makes screen readers not have to read a bunch of jumbled text for a hyperlink. But I would say that the thing to keep in mind with a hyperlink, a renamed hyperlink, is that if this document is ever going to be printed, just put the full URL on there because if you print the document or you foresee it being printed at any time, you're going to lose. People are not going to be able to physically retype that URL in order to find the site that you were looking for. You're going to lose the information because it would have just been in the actual digital document. So rename hyperlinks when you can, but don't rename them if you foresee this document ever being printed out. So everything has its limits. In order to rename a hyperlink, you select whatever text you want to appear in the actual text. Like, for example, click here to see WorkNet. And then you right click and you see edit hyperlink or add hyperlink. And from there, you get a little menu that allows you to edit all of your information. And you can also make that an email. You can also make it a different part of the document that it can hyperlink to. We can show you all of that in a little bit. Um, or you can select the text, use the insert tab, and then hit link, and it'll open up the same menu. Two ways to get at the same thing. The big thing too with renaming a hyperlink is that when you've renamed a hyperlink, make sure that you're letting people know where you're taking them to, because that's a big phishing scam concern is not knowing what you're clicking on. So be very clear about click here to access blank, click here to see blank, or visit this poll or whatever. You don't have to say the whole click here. Like you can just make sure that people know where they're being redirected to whenever you hyperlink. Otherwise, it's going to look like a phishing scam and it's a potential phishing hazard. Um, I've talked a lot. Are there any questions? I'm going to pause a little bit. I've still got a few more slides before we get into the tutorial, but I've covered a lot and I don't want people to forget. All right. I'm going to move on. Color and color contrast. So this can get real in the weeds as far as knowing what colors are accessible and what colors are inaccessible. So I've got a list here if you ever want to reference it of color combinations that tend to be a little bit more difficult to read for people who are colorblind. So green, red, green, brown, blue, purple, light green and yellow, blue, gray, green, black. The thing about that is that I'm not going to remember that like 2 minutes from now. As soon as this slide's over, I'm not going to remember that. So that's not really something that I can easily keep at the front of my head. The easier way to go about that, if you don't have a photographic memory, is to think about other ways that you can convey information besides color and to make sure that color is not the only way that you are conveying information. So if you'll notice with a hyperlink, it's not only blue, usually it's underlined. So somebody who is not able to see that it's blue can still see that it's underlined. And that's the idea that you want to keep going forward. That's a lot less cumbersome than having to remember specific color combinations that might not work. So, can the content be understood without color? Can your links and buttons be understood without color? Can you see that it's a button that clicks to somewhere else? Can you use texture to also convey the information? So if you've got a graph, a bar graph that's got a bunch of lines on it, is color the only way that you're able to see which one is which? Use lines, use dots, use hash marks, use anything like that. Try to find two ways at least that people can understand the information so that it's not just reliant on color, so that if somebody can't see the color very well or has low vision, they're not going to lose information. That's really the goal here is that we want people with disabilities not to lose information when we convey it. Use high contrast colors, hue, saturation, and brightness, especially when it comes to text versus background. So one of the things that I'm going to show you in the tutorial is a color contrast analyzer that I've got a slide on too, so I won't go into a lot of detail. But in general, try to have a high contrast, especially between the text and the background, so that it's easy to read, especially for people who have low vision. Don't ignore the accessibility checker. The accessibility checker will ping you if you've got something that's a little too low contrast. So if you see that, pick a different color. I'm going to skip that because we already went through it. Color Contrast Analyzer. This is one of the resources that is on Do It's page. It's not specifically from Do It. You'll notice that because it is spelled the British way, the Color Contrast Analyzer with an S and a U. But it is a wonderful, wonderful resource. It's an app that you download that you can get from their website. And I've got a hyperlink to it here as well that allows you to take a little dropper and drop it on the text. And then you check the background and it shows you if there's enough text and background contrast for a small text, for medium text, and for large text. And it'll tell you whether or not you pass on that one. So very, very useful tool. I use it all the time whenever we're getting anything graphically designed to annoy the graphic designer and let them know that their stuff is too pretty to pass an accessibility check and that they need to make it more high contrast. But very, very, very important and a great tool so that you're not just going off your gut to have a real concrete, this doesn't pass a color contrast checker. So download this. Very great. Lists. I don't have a lot to say here. The built-in list structure for Word that you use, like the one, two, three, the dot, dot, with the little like bullet points, works really well. That is how the screen reader is meant to do. The Word has put a lot of effort into making lists accessible. So just use the built-in list feature. Don't just physically type out. Like if you notice you type 1 period 0 and it like automatically indented, then you're good. Like it's already picked up that it's a list, you're good to go. But don't try to jerry rig it, or it's not going to read it as a list as easily as it would normally. So, not a lot to say there. Just use the built-in function. It's made there for a reason. It's very easy to use. Tables. So, why would we use tables? That feels like it would be something really difficult to read for a screen reader. In reality, tables are a really great tool because once again, the way that we talked about before with reading order, where you look at a book, you look at the chapter that you want, you skip to that chapter, and you don't have to read it front to back. This is the same thing with the table. People can look at the information that they want because usually when we're reading a report, I'm not a real numbers guy. When I'm looking at a data set, I look for certain things that I want to pick up on, like the big numbers or the big like ideas. And that's what we want people to be able to do. They don't have to read the entire table. They can skip to whichever row and column they need to in order to get the information that they need. So tables are actually a very useful tool for accessibility. When used right, it allows the screen reader to skip around, find information. Um, it's the time to skip a table and to just take a screenshot of, for example, Excel and paste that in there is if the text is a little too small. Like if the table is a little too big for it to be easily legible, like with the text font size that I had 85 slides ago, recommendation, the just take a screenshot and paste it as a picture and provide alt text. Because frequently, especially with those bigger tables, again, you're only really looking at certain key figures. So in the alt text, you can say, this shows a progression from 2024 to 2025 to 2026 of registered apprenticeships in the, I don't know, Wabanzi area. And shows that it went from this to this to this. Like that, even that was a little too verbose, but you can, oh, well, my light died. Oh, well. You can give it a little bit more specified information. Uh, so don't bog down the alt text with too much information. Truly only put the minimum amount of information that you need in order to understand it. But if the table gets a little too big and the font gets a little too small, just make it a screenshot and post alt text. So when you do use a table, make sure that you don't leave any empty spaces because that trips up the screen reader. So don't leave any, like if you've got the columns up here that are named a certain way, and then the rows over here that are named a certain way to have information that combines that way. Don't leave a little blank space here. If you're using it to maybe write an agenda or something like that, just don't leave any blank spaces because it does trip up the screen reader. So put something in there, put in like blank or something in there. Leave no blank spaces and use headers and columns and rows according to the information that you need. That will help the screen reader find the information that it needs. It used to be that that Adobe couldn't read, I think it was Adobe that couldn't read rows or something, but they've updated that. So Adobe, like PDFs and Microsoft Word and PowerPoint all read rows and columns very well. So use those whenever you need them. You don't have to use both, but use them as applicable. The last thing is plain language. This is more of a writing thing of how you've written your document. So there are a few parameters of plain language. The federal government is wanting to switch a little bit more to plain language with their documents to make sure that people are able to access information. So this is a federal initiative coming down to us. And I have the federal plain language guide linked in the slides if you would like to visit that afterwards. But the basic tenets are write for your reader, adjust your style to whoever you're writing for. If you know that they know a lot about the subject, you can provide a little less detail than you would if you know that they are not going to know anything about what you're talking about. Major points first, details last. We know that people don't have a lot of time, so we want to make sure that they are able to get most of the information from the get-go. A good executive summary goes a long way. Eliminate filler, just write less. Less is more. Um, don't try to be overly flowery with language. Don't try to write at a master's level and show that you have an amazing vocabulary. The point of writing is to convey information, it's not to show off. So eliminate filler, be as brief as you can, be as simple as you can. Minimize abbreviations and acronyms. If you do use an abbreviation or an acronym, then explain it the first time that you use it. Use common definitions of words. Sometimes in our industries, we have a word that means something to the general population that means something different for us. And just go with the general definition on that one. Um, we want to not confuse people with our own internal jargon. We'll just lose information that way. This is less about accessibility. It is about accessibility, but it's more also about just legibility of intense government documents that some of us have to write frequently. Avoid legal, foreign, or technical jargon. Don't be writing just like pro se, something represented in parentis locum. Like we don't, nobody speaks Latin. Like avoid it. We don't need all that. Say it in English. Use tables and illustrations to break up the text. Use tables and illustrations to convey information. If you can, use short paragraphs, use many headers, and have a proofreader, preferably one who isn't familiar with your work, um, so that they can ask you questions that you've gone a little nose blind to. So, questions. Do you have any questions before we dive into a tutorial? All right. Hearing none, we're moving on to the next section. Live tutorial. For this, I am going to share a couple of worksheets with you. So let me know if this doesn't work. And you can always just use a random Word document. Oh, I'm glad this was good information. I like this stuff. I think it's very interesting. So let me drop these in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and drop all of them. So this first one is a PowerPoint, and that is going to be the second thing that we use. And the second one is a Word document that we will be going through first, and that is going to be also what we use in order to look at PDF accessibility, because both of these documents I have made purposefully inaccessible, and we're going to fix that. We might not get through all of it, depends on how much time we get, but I really want to show you at least reading order because that is very, very confusing, and a lot easier if you just go through it yourself. So, resharing my screen. The first thing that we're looking at is the Word document. So feel free to do this on your own time as well, but it really will make this a lot more fun if you do this along with me and you ask me questions as you get tripped up, because that's what I'm here for. So the first thing that we want to look at with Word is the accessibility checker. And can everybody see my cursor? Can I get a thumbs up or maybe in the chat? Can you see where my cursor is at? Yep, yep. Okay, great, great. And are the raised hands just for to say that there's a cursor? Okay, great, 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 great. All right. Um, that will make this a lot easier. So, accessibility checker is down here. You see accessibility investigate. That, if you click it, opens up the accessibility assistant, which is this side pane on the right-hand side that shows you all of the issues that this document might have. It shows you color and contrast, media and illustrations, tables, document structure, document access, all of that. So this is a really handy way to just kind of go through and check things quickly before you send it off. Laura, do you have a question? I'm going to go ahead and allow you to unmute in case you do have a question. Oh, the hand went down. I'm gonna. Oop, it's all good. You're good. All right, I'm going to disable your talking. You've gone back to mute. So if anybody has questions, we can go through. All right, this will show you any of the accessibility features. So as you can see, our activity over here is color and contrast, and it's telling us that the color contrast is not accurate and that it could be fixed. So we're not going to do that right now. We're going to do it in a little bit because I want to show you the color contrast analyzer. But that is a really great just baseline tool. You can also access it from the review tab up here, and then you go to check accessibility, which is right here. So you click that, it's the same pane, two ways to get to the same thing. So I talked a lot before. This makes it a little bit clearer, I hope. But this is an amazing, amazing tool, and really bare minimum, go through this and resolve any like big issues that you see. There are some that'll show up as a little bit more optional, and use your best judgment. With all of these, there is a little bit of it that is just use your best judgment. So we've taken a tour of the accessibility checker. We're going to move on to reading order, which is the fun part. So you will probably have already seen reading order in some sense because up here in home, the home tab, you see this right here that says normal, no spacing, heading. It's up there all the time. Usually, whenever you open Word, it's one of the first things that you see. That's what we're working with. So you can go right here and click the styles pane up here in this menu to open up the styles pane, which is very similar to the accessibility pane. It's just slightly different function. You can also um, go to, give me a second. I believe you can right click. That option might have gone away. Anyway, so things change. That you're going to have to adapt to the way that Microsoft updates and stuff. I apologize, but this will at least give you tools to work with. So styles pane right here, home, this little section right here, styles pane, opens up here. So this is going to give you an option of all the different types of formatting that this document has. And I haven't edited any of this. This is how my default shows up. So the first thing that I want to do is make the document title header one. So that is this right here, document accessibility worksheet. You'll see that if I click header one right here on the styles pane, it's going to switch it to whatever the default was for the header one. So I'm going to click Control Z to get it back to the lovely Century Gothic that I had before. The first way that you can do this, which I've had mixed success with, but it is easier, is to select whatever text you've got going on and then click on, like, I want this to be header one. So click on header one, the little caret down, and then update style to match selection. So as you can see, it worked this time, thank goodness. But it updated heading one to be exactly how it was selected over here. And that is the easiest way to go about this. In theory, you should be able to go through with your normal and your header two and whatever, and fix it that way. Sometimes, I'm not going to lie, it gets a little convoluted. But as you can see, if I wanted to make, let's make another header one, which you're not supposed to do because the document title is heading one always. You only have one thing as heading one. But we're going to break the rules because that's fun. If I click that, it becomes the same as the previous one. So Control Z. The next thing we want to do is to make this style heading two. So we've got activity one, activity two. So I'm going to move this. I've selected what I want that font to look like and then update to match selection. And you see heading two change to match this too. And I can go through the rest of heading two and just click it to make sure that the reader is going to pick all of these up as heading two. It's also important that you don't select any blank space before your headings, or it will pick up that blank space as part of the heading, as part of the header. It'll also, if you've got a bigger font, it'll give you a bigger gap between everything else, than if you just had a normal space with the normal font of like a 12-point font. So it's going to look a little wonky too. But that's how you do that. And then we're going to make um, this text that says instructions are normal text. So for this, I'm going to do this a little differently because there are two ways to do this. So I could select and then make the style match over here, update to match selection, whatever it's called. But I'm going to do a different thing. I'm going to go to modify style so you can see what that looks like. So it opens up this page that is your fonts page. It looks exactly the way that you um, make all of your fonts. I want my normal style to be at post, so that's already right. I'm going to have it as at point 12. I don't want it bold. I don't want it italic. I don't want it underlined. Um, I am going to have automatic coloring. I can change the coloring over here. You can align it to the left, center aligned, align to the right, or justify, which is it fits both margins equally. Um, Single space, double space, increase the space between the paragraphs, decrease space between paragraphs. All of that has to be set here in order for that to work. So adjust it to whatever you want it to be, and then click OK, and that's your new normal. So honestly, for this one, I don't have to do anything because the normal is exactly what I want it to be. But that's how another way that you can update that. So that is really the most complicated part of this. And it gets a lot more annoying once you actually get into working on a longer document. But I want to make sure that you don't have any questions because that is what trips a lot of people up. Any questions? All right. Hearing none, there's another thing that I'd like to show you, and that is the outline view. So if you go to view and then outline right here, it shows you if you've done this correctly. And as you can see here, I have messed up the lists a little bit because we've got two big gaps with two little bullet points here. So that means that I have inserted more things into the list than I meant to. So I got to go back and delete a couple of things in the list. But this will also show you if, for example, you selected the blank space before the header as part of your header too, it'll give you a weird gap in here. So this outline view is really what the screen reader is looking at. It's not looking at your printer view, which is what we usually work off of. So this is a great tool to just check yourself. So as you can see, I can't remember exactly where those oh, it's probably for this image. Like this image is probably what trips up the list because it's kind of weird and wonky. And the pictures are not going to show up on outline view. So that's most likely my issue there. I could investigate it further, but I don't want to waste your time while we're sitting here. But great tool. Check view, outline view. I'll show that again. View, outline. And there you go. And then close outline view to get out of this. All right. Do extra spaces also create weird spacing issues or just extra spaces before? Um, it does create weird spacing issues. I'll just show you what that looks like. So let me add a space between activity three and make this also a header because you can see we're going to make it heading two, which it already did by default. If I look at this and I compare the space that's between here and the space that's between here, that's a lot bigger. That's what I mean that it's going to look a little wonky. But then if we go to outline view, so again, view, outline, you're going to see that this gap appeared in activity three. Do you see that? That means that I've messed up. So you've got a little gap. So that's what I meant by little gap. Does that make sense? Fantastic. Yeah. So if I then go here to this blank space and make it normal, well, it's still got the like my normal setting has a to add a space before and to add a space after a paragraph, so it's still picking up that paragraph. I would still have to delete that for it to look normal, but you did see that it jumped from being about that size to like a little bit smaller, right? So that's what that does. Anyway, I'm going to move on to alt text. If you have any questions about anything previously, go ahead and ask them. We can go in any order. This is really, I want this to be free space for us to use however we need to, and we've got till 11:30, so use up our time. Alt text. Two ways that you can access alt text is the easiest way is to right click on the image and you get this little drop down and you can see right here that it says view alt text. So click view alt text and we get a pane just like the styles pane. Actually, like the styles pane is still open over here and here. You can just X out of that one because we're not going to need the styles pane right now. But this is how you're going to update your alt text. The other way to do that is that I'm going to close this out. You click on the image and you get this picture format option up top. You click picture format and then you go to alt text right there. Two ways to get to the same thing. And as you can see here, the alt text, because of the AI integration with Microsoft Office, has already sort of picked up what this could be. How to make powdered sugar recipe, love and lemons. I'm assuming this is probably from the website that I pulled it from. I apparently used the recipe website. So AI will pick up usually a guess at what it could be. And sometimes AI is correct and sometimes it's not. So just double check it, go through there. For me, this is a decorative element. So I really don't need any information from this. So I'm going to mark this as decorative. Right here is the option to mark as decorative. Done. The screen reader's not going to read it. It's going to ignore it. It's not conveying any information. So you don't have to put anything in here. But if it did convey information, this is not exactly what I'm using this for here, like how to make sure recipe. That would be really confusing for the screen reader to read, right? To go from market elements in the header as decorative to how to make powdered sugar recipe. Like that's going to confuse people. So I'm going to go through here and say bowl of powdered sugar with a spoon. And that's it. Brief as possible. This is again one of those things in accessibility that's kind of up to your own judgment. There's not super set parameters as far as how much text to put in an alt text situation. It's more about what information do you think the reader needs to know. And that really, like, I'm a detail person. I like a lot of detail. I tend to put a little bit more detail than I probably should in alt text, but try to not bore whoever's listening. So up to you. Try to be brief, convey any information that's needed, but really for this purpose, mark is decorative. That's it's really like this is not adding any information to our list over here. So you can also mark the header as decorative. So that is the next assignment that I want us to do. So I've got a lovely little header up here with ICSPS, and I don't want the screen reader to get tripped up on these elements. So I've got two little squares and I've got ICSPS. So I've double clicked to get into the header so that I can edit it. And then I'm going to take this and mark it as decorative because it's part of the template. And I'm going to take this and you can see that blue on white logo, AI generated content may be incorrect. That's the indication that it was AI generated. But I can approve the alt text from here if it was AI generated, or I can mark this as decorative, which this is decorative. We don't need them to know that the ICSPS logo is in the header. That's not useful information. And then I'm going to mark this other square as decorative. All right. And then to exit the header, you up here in the header footer options, you just click close header and you'll be out of the header. So you'll also notice with this document that there's an extra space up here from here. That was mostly for looks. I didn't want this to go down to, I don't know, but you can also mess with the margins. Doesn't matter. Activity 4, descriptive links. Um, for this one, I'm going to rename this hyperlink, which this is a hyperlink of Billie Eilish's uh, song for Barbie as sung by a cat, which was popular on TikTok like 2 years ago. Um, but in order to rename it, the easiest way is to select the hyperlink. You can right click it. You gotta right, if you left click it like normal clicking, it's going to, oh, I'm seeing a comment in the chat, so I'm going to deviate a little bit and look at that. So it will show grayed out for you. If you can see for me, it also is grayed out up here. I'm just wanting to make sure that this isn't the issue that you're having. Like if I click right now, it's not going to let me look at the alt text. Is this the issue that you're having too? No. Okay. Um, so then I won't get into that. I'm assuming that, well, in order to get into the header, you double click, you see the header, and it'll not be grayed out anymore. And then I'm going to open up the alt pane, and then you tell me what you see. Do you see, is this what you're seeing, that it's grayed out here, that it's not letting you alter the alt text? Gotcha. Okay. So for that, it might be that it's already marked as decorative. If you unmark it as decorative, does it open it up for you? Great. Fantastic. That's what we're here for. So, everything good, resolved? Give me a thumbs up or just a yes. Great. Fantastic. All right. Any questions like that? Please, 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 please pause me. Very, very important. I want to answer your questions. So, descriptive links um, here. You've got two ways that you can do this. If you right click it, if you left click it, it's going to take you directly to the link. So don't do that. Right click it. You see right here hyperlink. You've got a couple of options: open hyperlink, copy hyperlink, edit hyperlink, select hyperlink, remove hyperlink. All those are pretty self-explanatory, so I'm not going to click on all of them. I'm just going to click edit hyperlink because that gives us a few options. That's going to bring up this panel right here. And you've got three options in terms of how to rename your hyperlink. This is for an external web page. This is for within this document. So if you can see here, like we've got in terms of headings, we've got document accessibility worksheet, which is header one, and then all of our activities, which are header two, which is another nice feature of using the built-in structure, is that you can then make this a hyperlink to later on in your document. So say that this document is 75 pages long, and one of the headers is like 75 pages from here, and you want to reference that section, you can click there and it'll make a hyperlink to that other section in your document. But you have to use the built-in structure for that to work. So use the built-in structure. Email address too. You can put in like, here's my email at ilstu.edu, subject, accessibility. If I spelled it correctly, that would be amazing. And that automatically opens up an email whenever they click a hyperlink that has the subject line pre-filled in and has the right email address to send out. So those are your options. But with all of them, we're just going to go back to web page because that's really what we're wanting. This is a YouTube link. And up here for all three, you see text to display. So this is what's going to appear in your actual document. So you can put here, click here to watch YouTube video, or I don't know, Billie Eilish cat video, something to give an idea of what people are clicking on. That's what I meant by the phishing scam. I don't want people to not know what they're clicking on. So what I really want you not to do is just say link or hyperlink or click here because people don't know what they're clicking on. Have some sort of indication. It doesn't have to be super thorough of what people are being redirected to. So if you noticed on my PowerPoint, when I had the color contrast analyzer link, I didn't put click here to download because that's not going to be the direct link to download it. I put click here to see the page and to learn more information and also to download so that people don't think that they're automatically going to download something with that link. That is really funny, actually, because if we're going to say, I don't know, Billie Eilish cat video, because I clearly forgot to change that over here with the color contrast analyzer in the worksheet. So I apologize, but that really is not correct. So I'm going to fix this. You're not downloading the app when you're changing this. So I'm going to change this to, so again, right click, hyperlink, edit hyperlink, and then click here to learn more information or download the app. You don't have to be that wordy. Just give some sort of information. The other way that you can do that is if you, for example, want to make this text a hyperlink, it's the same thing. You select this text, you right click, you go to hyperlink, and it's not going to have the edit hyperlink and all the other options that you usually would have. Or if you have a Mac, you can click Command K, and then you can add the YouTube link right here. It's the same page, this document, email address, web page, and you can just paste the YouTube link right here, and that'll make this a hyperlink that's renamed. All right, questions about how to rename a hyperlink or anything previously? Because the next one is a little bit more involved. And you're also free to come off mute too. I can unmute you. All right. Keep asking questions if you want to. I'll see them in the chat. This is a very cool thing. This is the color contrast analyzer. So if you click on this link, then you're going to get an app that is the color contrast analyzer. It looks like I'm just going to post a screenshot of it. Give me a second. It looks like that. That icon. That icon is going to be saved to your desktop. And that is an app to allow you to see color contrast. So I'm actually going to make this full screen, or at least bigger. And I'm going to reshare my screen so that you can see my full screen. All right. So if I open the color contrast analyzer, I get a little window that looks like this. And this is our app. It is so useful. I cannot recommend downloading this enough. It is very easy to use too. So up here is the foreground color. This is your background color. You can also edit and type in here if you know the color code for wherever you're looking at. Um, but down here, um, it's got the ratio set to what color contrast ratio it should be. That is not editable. That's just the standard for accessibility, but it's letting you know what the color contrast ratio should be. And this is for small text, for large text, and in general, if this passes for UI components and graphics. So um, this last one is for if you're like checking a logo that's got a couple of different colors. The top two are to check the color contrast for text. So small text, large text, um, pass, pass, or pass, fail over here. So, oh, actually, I said that wrong. This is for regular text. This is for large text of the minimum contrast. This is for enhanced contrast, regular text or large text, and then non-text contrast. So that's for logos. I apologize. I messed that up a little bit. Um, so how do you check the contrast? That's going to be our next activity. As you can see, this first instruction is real light as compared to the background. That's hard for me to read, and I don't have low vision. So I'm going to take the little color dropper, the color picker, and select where my text is. And that gives me the code for what that text is. And the background color is already white, but I'm going to do it anyway just for fun. The background is white. It picks that up. And we see that this failed, 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 failed across the board. I would imagine that the accessibility thing will also pick that up. But let's try a different color. And I am going to choose this color because it's one that one would not think. The default red is actually not as accessible as we think it is. So the first red option that it gives you for text will fail in some regards. So you see, this is the first red that it gives you. It's the default one. And for regular text, it fails. And for enhanced contrast, it fails at both regular and large text. So if this was a large thing like for PowerPoint, like or maybe these headers, it would be fine, but not for small text and not for enhanced contrast. So let's change that to, I don't know, this orange and check that. Passes with flying colors all the way through. So that's something that you can do. I don't know, let's try something fun. Let's go into the header and then put a different shape up here. Let's put that there. And then we're going to make the shape fill that color. And we're also going to make no outline. So you can see this would be like a non-text element. I can pick the little circle on the inside and then the block on the outside, and you can see that it fails with text components and with non-text contrast for if you're checking an image, for example. And if you then would make this a little lighter, we'll check that again. What does that look like? Okay, so it looks as though it fails for enhanced contrast just for smaller text. So if you really needed this to be something that was extremely, like you know that somebody with a lot of that with visual impairment is going to read this, then you might not want to go with that color in terms of text. But for everything else, it passes with flying colors. So I cannot tell you how much I love this tool, and I use it all the time. And the graphic designer hates hearing from me because I'll keep using this everywhere and point out everywhere that needs a little bit more contrast. So, um, RIP to graphic designers, but very, very useful in terms of disability work. All right. That was a little weird because we had to look at a different app. Do we have any questions? Does anybody want to come off mute to ask questions? I'll pause a little bit. Where can you get the color contrast app? I am going to drop that link in the chat. This link is to Do-It's page. Oh, no, 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 no. This is the direct link. My bad. I was actually more efficient than I meant to be. Here's the page. It allows you to download on Microsoft or on Windows or on Mac. So I'm using the Mac version. The Microsoft version looks very similar, or the Windows version looks very similar. Great. Yes, this app is so useful. It's honestly also very useful just to find the color code for things because sometimes that's easier in terms of like if you're using Canva to design something or whatever. Canva has a color picker, but honestly, I feel like this app is so easy to use that I just open it to like just find out what the color code. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I don't. If you shoot me an email, I'll try to give you some resources. I'm putting my email in the chat. Um, But yeah, I totally get that. Some organizations have firewalls that you can't get past, but if you can use it, great. Um, for, Most likely you will kind of have to use your own judgment, but I can give you a few resources that have a little bit more specifics. I'm going to switch from this because our next one is to open up the PowerPoint thing. So open up the PowerPoint accessibility worksheet that I put in the chat. And if you need it resent, I can do that. This one is going to be shorter because since it's both Microsoft, there's really not a whole lot of change from one to the other. So there's no need for me to show you how to rename a link. It's the same thing. I don't, yeah, it's alt text is the same thing. I mostly want to show you how to do reading order here. So the first activity is reading order. And in order to do that, you notice that I've put these in a wonky order. And also, you should never use separate of these. Like it's better for it to just be in one text box. But this is still legible if we want to do it this way for some sort of like, I don't know, aesthetic reason. This is still legible by a screen reader. We just need to make sure the screen reader is reading things in the correct order. So you can see one here, go to the review tab and check accessibility. So review tab, check accessibility, and then this little caret down here. Oh my God, it's apparently not going to let me do that while I'm sharing my screen, but I'll just check accessibility and then there should be a reading order option right here. That's so annoying. I'm going to unshare my screen. I'm going to click that and then I'll be right back. So review tab, check accessibility, the little caret, go down, reading order pane, and that'll pop up the reading order pane. So I can't show you that, unfortunately, because Zoom is annoying, but this is where it takes us to. Once again, same as the alt text, it has that little pane on the right hand side. And this is the reading order pane. It's super simple. Up here, this little check mark means that it is included in the reading order. These little caution signs means that alt text is missing for some sort of object. So we can see here that it is picking up all of these. And you can also edit anything that has text of like how it's going to be read. So if I click the edit, I can then change what it says here, which this is for pictures. So you can also edit the alt text directly from here. You can see blue and white logo, AI generated without content. That is the ICSPS logo. We're going to change a few things because we don't want it to read all of this. So first off, You can click through, and whatever you click, it's going to highlight, or it's going to show you the little, like, I don't know, stretchy thing, whatever those are called, of whatever it's reading. So you can see what it's reading in what order. So it's starting with this. That's correct. Content placeholder instructions. That is correct. That is the next thing that I want it to read is instructions. And then it's starting there. That's not what I want. So I can see that this number one needs to be read first, and I can just move it up. So now it's gone title, instructions, number one, number two, number three. And then these three things are the logo and the two little squares. So I don't need it to read either of those. So I could unselect these and then it's not going to read them at all. But I also want to fix the alt text because I haven't done that and these don't have alt text. Um, and I can just mark that as decorative. So marked as decorative. And then as you can see, it's not going to read it anymore. And I can just, you don't have to X out of it. You can just click away from the window to make it go away. So again, I don't want it to read that rectangle. So I'm going to mark that as decorative as well. And then it doesn't read them anymore. Same thing with the last one. And you can see this, like the little caution sign is what it's talking about here in terms of it's missing alt text. That's what that looks like. So edit, mark as decorative, and then click away and it's gone. And the reading order is correct now. So it's not too terrible. It used to be way, way, way worse. The simpler you have of your formatting, the more easy this is going to be. So sometimes for your own sanity, I would recommend to make things as simple as possible. But even a weird, wonky looking one like this, you can fix the reading order. You just have to rearrange a few things. So that's how you do that. You click out, done. Any questions? Because the next activity is just our PDF. All right. So next activity, we're going to open our Microsoft Word worksheet. We're going to save it as a PDF. And then we're going to open in Adobe Acrobat Pro. And I'm going to show you the accessibility checker. And I'm going to show you alt text. And I'm going to show you the reading order. So unsharing my screen. Everybody go, or I can drop in a PDF version of this document. Let me save it real quick. Hold, please. Okay, I'm dropping a PDF version of our first worksheet, and this is going to be riddled with issues. And that's the point. We want to see them. So again, you have to have Adobe Acrobat Pro. Very sorry about that. If you don't have it, you just kind of have to, like from the outset, make sure that the Word doc is accessible so that you can have an accessible PDF. But even if you're handed a PDF and it's not quite accessible, you might not be able to fix everything, but you can fix a few things with this. So all of the tools that you need for Acrobat Pro are in this Prepare for Accessibility tool. So I'm not seeing it here. So I'm going to view more, prepare and sign form. Da, 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 da. One of these is Prepare for Accessibility. Of course, I can't find it. There we go, Prepare for Accessibility. Always happens whenever trying to read in public. It's embarrassing. Okay, you've got a couple of options with this pane over here. This is your all-in-one tool for PDF accessibility. You can automatically tag a PDF, which is going to automatically tag the reading order and create AI-generated alt text for all of the feature, like all the pictures within it. I am going to do that because I want to show you what it does. But you've also got change reading options, which is your reading order check for accessibility, which I'm going to do real quick. It shows you here asking like all the things that it wants. Like, do you want it to check all of these things? You double check, you say yes, or you don't read and you just say start checking. And then it'll give you very similar to Microsoft's accessibility checkers. And you've got document issues here like accessibility permissions flag, image only passed, logical reading order needs a manual check. So From here, you can check the reading order. The title failed, color contrast needs a manual check because again, we've got that really low contrast. So this is giving you an idea of what you need to look for. Um, and if you can see the question mark here, that's a use your discretion on whether or not you need to fix that. The X means you need to fix that for sure. So resolve any of the X's, and then if you have time, look for the rest of them and see what else you can resolve. But this is a really easy way to fix your color contrast, to fix logical reading order. You just click through here and it'll take you automatically to it. But I'm going to do it the difficult way because I want to show you. Identify form fields. That is also to be able to read a form, like a fillable form on PDFs. Add alt text. That is what I'm going to do. Acrobat will automatically detect all the figures in this document and associated with alt text. Yes, I'm going to let it do that. And here we go. It picked up the first one and it has alt text here. How to make powdered sugar recipe, same thing, same thing. I'm going to mark this as a decorative figure and then I'm going to save and close. And there we go. We've resolved the alt text. It is kind of automatically picked up that this is just part of the template. So it doesn't need to read it. Um, Fixed reading order. You can use a setup assistant too. Like that's just for it to automatically tag any accessibility issues and try to fix them for you, which is useful as a first pass, but you kind of need to go through and comb through them afterwards. So fixed reading order, again, show page content groups, content order, display, help, show order panel. So this is just asking you what you want it to check for. You double check this and then show order panel here. It's kind of annoying because it doesn't have like a nice like click here situation, but show order panel is what you want. And there we go. This is the same thing as the outline view from Word. You can see what's showing up here. And as you can see, the reading order is all sorts of messed up and you can just kind of toggle with it from there. So I'm going to close this and from here, we've got the show reading order panel and you can go through and select what your headings are. So this is, I'm not going to lie, I haven't completely mastered how this one works. I've found that it doesn't work super well. Um, so I would recommend to get things straightened in the Word document and then it'll kind of automatically pick things up better here. But even then it's, I don't know, a little bit wonky. But yeah, PDF in general is a little bit more difficult. And you can see that it's picking up like over here in page one, this as a section when it's just a blank space. So um, the way to get rid of unnecessary stuff is to right click it and then down here, delete selected item structure. So now it's no longer going to read that. And then now we're at a pretty good space. So you can see that it's going to read the worksheet, like you've got header one correct. So worksheet, document accessibility, it's going to read that. And then you've got the first page and then document accessibility worksheet, kind of. And then instructions, image one. I don't know. It's pretty messed up. It would take me a little while to fix this. Um, but you can at least see where all of that is. Sorry that that wasn't a very satisfying look. Honestly, Adobe's accessibility features are pretty clunky, and I have a really hard time navigating them. So I don't blame you if you do too. This is usually the point where I tag in the experts and have them help me. The last thing that I want to show, and I apologize that that was a kind of unsatisfying how to fix this situation, but automatically tag a PDF is the last thing that I want to show. So I'm going to allow it to tag. This document is already tagged. Would you like to retag? Yeah, do it. And this also shows all of the accessibility tags. So tags, figure one, part two, like here. This is showing you exactly how it's going to read your document. And yeah, you can just click through and see if there's anything that needs to be deleted. That's usually about the extent of where I get with reading order in PDFs. In my own expertise, this is something that I want to dig into a little bit more. but I usually will go through, click through all of these, make sure that it's the right order that I need it to be. And if, for example, I don't want it to read that, then I will delete it. So delete the tag here, and that won't show up in any sort of tag for reading order. So with PDF, I'm a lot better about going through and deleting what I don't want it to read than for it to reorganize what I'm doing. But you can also access reading order from here. I right clicked just anything, any of these items. You can see reading order again, and it brings up this show order panel menu that we had before. And we're back at where we were before with reading order. Although this looks a little bit different. This is, I get, like, I have a hard time with um, this. I think it was tagged by default, I would assume. And then me retagging it has made this a little bit more accurate in terms of reading order. So we've got the worksheet, page one, and then, yeah, this makes a little bit more sense. So I can delete selected item structure because it's showing up as the like template what we're going to read. Um, as you can see, this is super confusing. So it, wow. All right. I don't know why I did that. Um, I will end that by saying, in a very unsatisfying way, that Adobe's accessibility features are not as advanced as Microsoft, which is why if you can send things in the original Microsoft format, they tend to be a lot more accessible. Um, any questions about that? I know that I really fumbled through that, and truly, I'm not an expert in PDF accessibility, so I I've found it very frustrating to work with, and I've really, really tried. But if you have any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to answer them. So, do you have any questions before we move on to just general questions? And then I'm all done. You've got about 3 minutes left. I won't take much more of your time. I'm glad. I'm glad that was helpful. It was kind of an unsatisfying end, but I feel like it's with a purpose. The Microsoft tends to be a lot better. Absolutely. Thank you. All right. If anybody has any final questions, you can go ahead and ask them now. If not, have a great rest of your day. I hope that you've learned something. This is very, very interesting to me. So if you need anything, reach out. These slides and all the materials and the worksheets will be available as PDFs, unfortunately, so they're not as useful on the Illinois Workforce Academy within a couple of days. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. I'll stay on until time in case anybody has any questions that they're typing out. But otherwise, you are free to go. Have a wonderful rest of your day. All right. Thanks, everybody. Take care.